Quote Retreat by Sandor. One quote, one reflection, one thought that could bring a moment of light and energy to your day. Join me as we take a look at today's quote. The quote is by Amy Tan, born 1952. It reads, "If you can't change your fate, change your attitude." Let's take a moment together to explore the messages within this quote. Here's something that challenges everything we think about fate. What if our greatest power isn't in changing our circumstances, but in changing how we view them? Amy Tan captured this perfectly in her quote about changing attitudes when we can't change fate.
That's such a fascinating perspective to explore, especially coming from someone who's navigated between two distinct cultural worlds like Amy Tan has.
You know what really strikes me about her journey? Born in Oakland in 1952 to Chinese immigrants, she faced countless situations where changing circumstances wasn't an option. Instead of letting that limit her, she transformed these challenges into the foundation of her literary success.
The way she wove this philosophy into the Joy Luck Club is remarkable. Those characters couldn't change their past in China or their struggles in America, but they could completely transform how they approach these challenges.
Exactly. And what's fascinating is how this mindset shift shows up in her other works too. Like in The Kitchen God's Wife, where the protagonist discovers that her power doesn't come from controlling external circumstances, but from mastering her internal response to them.
That really connects to ancient Chinese philosophy, doesn't it? This idea that true strength comes from internal mastery rather than external control.
Oh my gosh, yes! And what's really powerful is how Tan took these complex philosophical concepts and made them accessible through storytelling. Instead of seeing her dual cultural identity as a limitation, she transformed it into this incredible creative advantage.
Well, how do you think this philosophy applies to modern challenges, like dealing with rapid technological change or social media pressure?
That's such an interesting question. I think it's actually more relevant than ever. When we feel overwhelmed by things we can't control, like algorithm changes or online criticism, we can focus on changing our response rather than trying to control the uncontrollable.
The way you put that makes me think about how this could apply to bigger societal issues too.
Absolutely right. And you know what's fascinating? When we look at successful social movements, they often started with people who couldn't immediately change their circumstances, but refused to let those circumstances define their response. They changed their attitude from helplessness to empowerment.
That's exactly what we see in Tan's work. Her characters don't just accept their situations, they find ways to reframe them and create new possibilities.
And what's really powerful about this approach is that it's not about toxic positivity or pretending everything is fine. It's about finding agency in situations where we might otherwise feel powerless. Like, we can't control a pandemic, but we can control how we adapt to it.
You know what makes this quote so practical? It's actually actionable advice that anyone can apply, regardless of their situation.
Right. And I've been experimenting with this in my own life. Instead of getting frustrated about things I can't change, I ask myself, what's my attitude about this, and is that attitude serving me? It's amazing how often just asking that question can completely shift my experience.
So what kind of changes have you noticed when you apply this mindset?
Well, the most surprising thing has been how changing my attitude often ends up changing the situation itself, even though that wasn't the initial goal. It's like when you shift your perspective, you start seeing different opportunities that were invisible through the lens of frustration.
That really brings home why this quote has such staying power. It's not just about acceptance, it's about finding new ways to create meaningful change.
Looking at it that way, it's really a quote about empowerment. It reminds us that even in our most challenging moments, we're not helpless. We always have the power to shift our perspective, and sometimes that shift is exactly what we need to find our way forward.
And perhaps that's the most important lesson we can take from both the quote and from Amy Tan's work as a whole.
You're so right. It's about finding strength in our ability to choose our response, even when we can't choose our situation. And isn't that ultimately what resilience is all about?
With that, we conclude this exciting episode. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd appreciate a like and a comment. Don't forget to subscribe. Thank you. Your support truly helps this channel grow. See you again tomorrow. Yours, Sandor.